começar, Sônia?
Pode sim, por favor. Good morning, everyone. May Jesus' peace be in all your hearts and your family. Embrace all your family and your hearts in this beautiful morning here in Calgary. It's with a great happiness that I'm here today to talk about the gospel, to talk about the reason of life, the reason for life. I'm happy to be here and share with you the reflections that I did about this theme. They're so important, really nowadays. And I'm saying that because we have our workshop coming on next September 26 about Suicide Prevention Day. This is a month, we are in this month, September, that we celebrate the International Suicide Prevention Month. It's a yellow September. And we are going to be talking about this so important, very, very serious issue this September 26th, and we would like to invite you all to join us for those reflections. We will be online. This will be online meeting due to COVID-19. We're not going to be here together, and today should be a day that you should be here with us. But unfortunately, we have new restrictions, so we are not able to welcome you here. But we welcome you online as well. Feel our love with you and our joy to be together, even though it's online. And our workshop will be from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. We're going to have 2 hours to reflect about the causes and the consequences of the suicide and the value of life according to Spiritism. Please be free to join us, and it will be a very we are going to have very important reflections about this theme. Well, so let's start our meeting with a harmonization text that we get from Living Spring by the Spirit Manual, psychographed by Francisco Cândido Xavier. Is the text number 61, Never Give Up. Always pray and never give up. Luke chapter 18, verse 1. Do not let external problems, including those involving your own body, render you incapable of working on your self-illumination. As long as you are living on a plan or practice such as the earth, you will continue to be confronted with problems and suffering. A lesson learned is something that leads to more lessons. Behind a mystery solved lie other mysteries. The purpose of a school is none other than teaching, practicing, and improving. Thus, be filled with enthusiasm and goodwill in every situation. You were placed amidst 1,000 strange obstacles, so that by overcoming outer difficulties, you may learn to surpass your inner limitations. As long as humankind has not adapted to the new light, You will live surrounded by troubling tears, thoughtless attitudes, and bad sentiments. Always be willing to forgive and help, so that you do not miss a glorious opportunity for spiritual growth. Remember all the afflictions that have best the Christian's spirit in the world ever since the Lord's coming. What has become of the Sanhedrin that condemned the heavenly friend to death? What has become of the proud, domineering Romans? Where are the persecutors of the nascent gospel? Where are the soldiers who caused dark rivers of blood and sweat to flow around the gospel? What has become of the shrewd rulers that fought and did business in the name of the crucified renewer? Where is the darkness of the Middle Ages? Where are the politicians and inquisitors of every sort who tortured in the name of the magnificent benefactor? Swept away by time over the cliffs of ash, they strengthened and so solidified the pedestal of light on which the image of Christ shines ever more glorious in the governance of the centuries. Focus on the endeavor of helping for the common good, bearing your cross on the road to divine resurrection. When caught off guard by unpleasant surprises along the way, remember that, before anything else, the most important thing is to pray, always, toiling, serving, learning, loving, and never giving up. So let's pray. Our Divine Master, Jesus, may you wish with us, may you be with us, may you involve our hearts and inspire us with your teachings. Once more, may your benevolent spirits be with us here today to support our words, to help us with your message, to become clear, to become more consoling, to guide us through our journey, to help us to find the way to our happiness. May your light enlighten our pathway, the pathway of our hearts, giving us the strength that we need to follow your teachings, your words of light. And then we can walk firmly towards God. Thank you for being with us, and may be with us during all our talking today, and help us to reflect upon your words to cure our own wounds. So be it. All right, thank you very much for being with us once again. Thank you, Victor, to be here with me. Thank you, everyone that is online with us today. I'm not following who is with us, but Victor, could you please tell me if anybody has any comments or questions? Mm-hmm. Okay, so feel free to put some questions or comments if you wish in our YouTube page. All right, so let's start. So today, like I said, it's the Yellow September, so our talking today will be more about the reason for life. So what's the reason for life, and how can Spiritism help us to answer this question? So in John chapter 14, verse 15 to 18, we can read this message from Jesus. If you love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. The Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. But you know him, for he lives with you, and will be in you. I will not leave you orphans. I will come back to you. With those words, Jesus promised us that we will not leave as orphans. He came to bring his lights, his words of love, his message to cure our wounds, our spirit wounds. And he is the doctor of the soul. And he came back again through the Spiritism. Back in 1857, he left us through the hands of Allan Kardec, the Spirit's book, where we can find so many clarifications for our doubts and so much comforter for our hearts. Spiritism is the promised comforter by Jesus. And Spiritism is able to provide us the answers, and mainly the answer for this question: what is the reason for life? When Jesus was with us, it's not working. It's okay. When Jesus was with us, he said, I have come that they may have life, and have it to the full. So he brought the message that help us to have a full life, to live our life in full. The invitation that Jesus is bringing to us is to live a life with capital L, a life full of lightness, full of joy, full of contentment. Jesus came from the highest splendors to live among us, to talk about the kingdom of heaven. Through his actions and gestures, he demonstrated the kingdom of love. He came in a time that we could see the culture and the wealth of many people, like the Romans, the Greek, the politicians, and the physical and the moral misery, waiting help, living side by side. And Jesus came for the poorest, for the humblest, to help them to find out the potential, unlimited feelings and actions that they could take in order to help themselves. Today is not different, because Earth is a planet of expiations and trials, and happiness is not from this world. As we can see in the Gospel according to Spiritism, especially in the chapter Blessed are the Afflicted, item 14, where Allan Kardec provided some instructions and some consoling words or instructions regarding suicide and madness. And there, this apostle of the Spiritism, Allan Kardec, he says that the calm and the resignation and how the terrestrial life is viewed, together with the confidence in the future, give the spirit the serenity, which is the best preventive measure against madness and suicide. So Allan Kardec is stating here that with calm, resignation, serenity, we are able to overcome, to surpass any challenge in our lives. But how can we get this motivation? Where we can get this calm and serenity from? How can we help ourselves to have those feelings? So, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And we are going to focus on this, in the work of this other apostle of the Spiritism, Léon Denis, who incarnated in January 1st in 1846 and discarnated in March 12, 1927. He is very well known as a notable Spiritist philosopher, and with Gabriel Delan and Camille from Marion, one of the principal exponents of Spiritism after death of Allan Kardec. Denis lectured throughout Europe at international conferences of Spiritism and Spiritualism, promoting the idea of survival of the soul after death and the implications of this for human relationships. He is known as the Apostle of French Spiritism. Léon Denis, and I strongly recommend that everybody read about his biography. It's very short. You can find in the website of Brazilian Spiritist Federation. You can see that he had a very challenging life. He had to face blindness, just problems with pneumonia, and he was very poor. He was born in a very poor family, and he had to fight a lot to study, to be able to read and write. He was a writer. When he passed away, he left us great books to foster Spiritism in France and internationally. And after he had read, the first time he had read the Spirit's book, he said, "I found in this book the clear solution, complete and logical, to universal problems. My conviction becomes strong and sound. The Spiritism theory dissipated my indifference and my doubts." And that's the key point here. The indifference and the doubts that many of us still have. We don't know where to find the answers. So hopefully we can provide those some answers for your questions here today. And this talk is based on this book of Léon Denis called, in my translation, The Reason of the Life. And the name in Portuguese is O Porquê da Vida. And the name in French is Le Pourquoi de la Vie. Hopefully my French is not that bad. And in this book, Léon Denis brings us the rational solution to the existence problems. And he answers three very key questions. What we are, where we come from, where are we going to? Those are the type of questions that once in a lifetime we have asked to ourselves. That's for sure. In the first paragraph of this book, and he offers this book to those in suffering, hoping that the words that we can read in this book can bring the consolation and clarification to those hearts that the burden of the life has been so heavy. So this book is very short, actually. It has only 133 pages, if I'm not wrong. And I couldn't find the version in English, but probably my research was not very broad. So I really recommend that you try to find this book in your language. If you're an English speaker, try to find some. There are some translations there, but I'm gonna try to bring the summary of this book. We are gonna talk about 7 chapters of this book. The book has 9 chapters, and then other correspondences and other subjects that we are not going to bring here today. We're going to be talking about the 7 first chapters of this book that we hope can answer some questions that we are bringing here today. And let's start with the first paragraph where he offers the book for those in suffering. He says, to those in suffering, may you find there, in the book, some useful teachings, a little light to clear your path. May this modest work be for your sadness spirits, what the shadow is for the sunburned worker, what the clear, refreshing spring offering itself to the eyes of the thirsty travelers. So that makes us think, how many thirsty travelers are in this moment on our streets, in the streets of our city today. And they are just waiting to receive this spring of water, of the living water, like Jesus said to the Samaritan woman. And the Spiritism is this promised comforter that can bring the relief, the peace, the light for those hearts. And hopefully, the Spiritism can reach more and more hearts to relieve the pain, to cure the disease. And in the first chapter, he brings us the duty and the freedom. He mentions that the questions that we all have asked once in our lifetime, or maybe we still ask, is the reason of life, the reason for the universe, and if God really exists. And the difficulty that we have to answer those questions lead us to disbelief and indifference. Because the human being has a need to know, has a need to clarify the questions that everyone has, needs the comforter to support and guide during our journey, our existence. And he says something that is very current nowadays. He said this in 1885 when this book was written, and it is still very current. He says, never has the need for light been more compelling. Never has the need for light been more compelling. Very current. And Leon Denis states that we all have in ourselves the ways to know the truth, the ways to know the answers of those questions, to enlighten our hearts, to clarify and comfort ourselves. And this is our consciential duty. And he says, to do this, one must detach oneself from the preconceived systems, descend into the deeps of oneself, listen to the inner voice that speaks to us all, and that sophisms cannot deceive, the voice of reason, the voice of conscience. We all have the voice of conscience in ourselves. We all bring engraved in ourselves the moral laws, the divine laws that were created by God to guide us through our journey as immortal spirits, where we can find answers for all of our questions if we stop the noise, the external noise, to come, to close to ourselves, to listen to those voices. And is this not what Jesus said to us to do? When he said, when you pray, go to your room, close the door, pray to your Father who is in secret. Then your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Matthew 6, chapter 6, verses 6. Sorry. So, we have this duty to come deep to inside of ourselves, to listen to our inner voice that will help us, that will guide us through our journey towards God. And he said regarding the freedom, for freedom to be fruitful, to be productive, to offer human actions a certain and lasting basis, it must be complemented by light, by wisdom, and by the truth. It's necessary that the knowledge of moral laws must regulate its exercise. Where are the divine laws? In our conscience, says the question 621 from the Spirit's book. If our choices, we all have the rights to choose. God gave us the law, the divine law of free will, so we have the right to choose whatever we want to do. But when we use this law based on the moral laws, when we make good choices based on the moral laws, the consequences will be light, will be happy, the consequences will be positives. But when we choose things that are not in connection with the moral laws, with the divine laws, we have negative consequences as return. So he says here how much important it is to have a freedom to choose or to base our choices in light, in wisdom, and truth, which are the truth is the moral laws. And then he talks to us about the existential problems in the next chapter. And he says that what is essential for all the human being to know is what we are, where we come from, and where are we going to. It's essential for us to know the universal laws and the role that each of us have in this existence. This will guide and motivate individual and collectively all our acts and objectives in our lives. If we have this knowledge, if we have those answers will guide us through our journey. And we are going to be doing good choices. But due to our difficulties to understand the profound meaning of life, we have the instinct of progress in ourselves, because we have the law of progress helping us to moving on. We don't know where to go. We don't know which choices to make. And then this will guide us, this will lead us to believe in nothing. Lives in disbelief, leave us in unsolved problems, such as the inequality existence. Why so many differences in the world? The diversity of faculties, the aptitudes, situations, merits. Where is fortune, while so many others have shared only intellectual poverty, vices, and misery? Why, in the same relatives and brothers, born of the same flesh and blood, differ essentially on so many points? He says that if everything ended up with death, if we believe in nothing, if we believe that this life will end up in nothing, the being would have no reason to constrain himself, to restrain his instincts and his inclinations. What reason? Why do I need to constrain myself if nothing is waiting for me? Outside of the earthly loss, outside of the loss, the legal loss that we have by the government, no one could stop him. Good and evil, just and unjust, would be equally mixed and blended into nothing, into nothingness. Suicide would always be a means to escape the rigors of human loss. If it's nothing is waiting for me, why should I stay here in suffering? So, the belief in nothing lead us to insoluble solutions. So many questions that materialism doesn't answer, but can be answered by the believers, by the Spiritism. In the chapter 3, he brings them the spirit and the matter. He says that there is no effect without a cause. This is an unquestionable truth. The effect, every cause has an effect. And then he will state the difference between spirit and matter with this question, with this axiom. He says that there are elements in each of us that differentiate us intellectually and morally, and cannot be of material origin. We can only seek their origin in the spiritual cause. So we all bring, in a greater or in a lesser degree, the sense of goodness, love, beauty, justice, progress. And although we do not yet fully feel the powerful forces of goodness, we are not completely good, we are not completely love. We are touched by the acts of love of others. And sometimes many times, we are able to act with love, with kindness, because we all bring these virtues in ourselves. We all are divine essence. And this happens because we bring this. We have engraved in the germs of the virtues in ourselves that are there just waiting for us to develop them, to practice them. Like Emmanuel brought us in this text of harmonization. We are in a school, and in the school we study, we practice, we develop. So, if we came, and Leon Denis was very, very very knowledgeable here when he said, if we came from matter, which is inert, how can we explain all those things? We would be superior to our cause, which is a contradiction to the axiom. There is no effect without a cause, because the cause will be superior, or better, the effect will be superior of the cause. And he said that everything shows that the human being belongs only temporarily to the matter. The body is only a borrowed clothing, a passing form, an instrument with the help of which the soul continues in this world. Its work of purification and progress. The spiritual life is the normal, true, endless life. We are immortal spirits. We are only travelers, the time travelers, and this existence is just an station. Like said our friend Lacordaire, the spiritual life is the normal one, is the real one, is the endless life that we all will be returning to in the end of this existence. And Leon Denis, he gives us an analogy that was very, very interesting. He says that the body is like the wheels of a car that only moves through the action of the engine. And the engine is our soul. Without our soul, when the soul leaves the body, when the bird gets out of the cage, the machine, the body, is just an inert matter. And then he says, the harmony of the universe. He brings this chapter that it's so beautiful, so beautiful. I was traveling in the space, in the earth, in the nature when I was reading this chapter. The harmony of the universe. He invites us to see the macro and the microcosm. He says that we are all children of the same loving Father who unites and harmonizes all the individual forces of the universe, and that without him would be dispersed, isolated, producing, if not chaos and confusion. He invites us to observe the sky. Let's try to see this image a little bit. See the sky. To observe the starry night, observe the innumerable stars that we see, that look so together, so close to each other. But in fact, they are millions of light years away from each other, and many of them have already died. But we have this spectacular view every night waiting for us, showing us what Jesus said to us. In my Father's house there are so many rooms. We are not alone. He invites us to observe the earth in its contours, its continents, the waves of the sea that comes and goes. And that seems to tell us, your flesh is mine, your beings my children. The earth is our mother, is our lovely mother that waits for us every existence, welcoming us, giving us all the resources that we need just to learn, to improve ourselves. And he said, God is the center from which all the powers of the universe emanate and to which they return. We came from God and we will return to him. He is the focus from which radiates every idea of justice, solidarity, and love. The common to which all beings are moving consciously or unconsciously towards a common goal. Consciously or unconsciously, we are all walking towards God. We are improving in a horizontal level or in a vertical level. We are all walking towards God. And we know these words by Jesus when he said in the parable of the corn, that he said that even it's night or day, the seed is growing. We are growing towards God, regardless if we know that or if we don't know that. And then he tells us about the successive lives. He tells us that, that he reminds us that first of all, we have the duty to know ourselves. That's what he states in the first part. And also to know the divine laws. So, through discernment, so based on the divine laws, we know what our duties and the consequences of our actions. So that we can walk with security and work for our improvement and for the society, for the improvement of the society where we live. And Jesus reminds us about that too, the successive lives. And I brought this in July in my talk about the reincarnation, where Jesus states that you must be born again. And regarding this, he says, immortality resembles on an endless chain and unfolds for each of us the immensity of time. Each existence is a link that connects in front and behind to different links, to different lives, but in solidarity with each other. The present is the consequence of the past and the preparation for the future. Step by step, the being rises and grows. Constantly, consciously or unconsciously, we are rising and growing. If we know the purpose of the life, if we really understand the reason why we are here, when we are facing life's proofs, when we are facing life's challenges, we'll have this calm and resignation that Allan Kardec tells us to have. Because we understand this chain. We understand that our life is like a pathwork quilt. We had one life before, and we learned from there, and we are improving more and more today. We are like in a school. We are in this level, in this degree, and we are studying here to go to another one, which is higher, and we have more lessons there to learn. Each lesson, after each lesson comes other lessons. After each mystery, we have other mysteries, like said Emmanuel in his harmonization, in the harmonization text. And he says that unfortunately, because there are people that don't, there are many brothers and sisters that they don't have this knowledge, they give up. They don't fight. They don't understand why, the reasons why they need to fight, and they give up. And they put the responsibility of their suffering in others, in God, in the government, in everything. They don't see that this is just a part of a chain, just a one element of this chain. That what we are passing through today is the consequence of our past. And we are invited to learn or to understand that God is mercy and justice. And never put heavy burdens in weakened shoulders. And Leon Denis reminds us that we live in a planet of trials and expiations again, which the evil predominates. And it's very laborious to understand and to practice the good. But we are invited to make more efforts, to elevate ourselves, to see better the universal harmony. And he uses this analogy of a lost traveler that needs to climb the top of a mountain so he can see better from the highest point where he is, in which direction he needs to go. So Leon Denis tells us that this isolated life does not allow us to understand the causes of our challenges, but the plurality of existence shows us, like a patchwork quilt, like I said, all the work already produced and what still needs to be produced by us. And then in the chapter 6, he tells us about the justice and progress, where he explains the function of the pain and its useful, how much useful is the pain for our advancement. Sometimes we don't want to feel the pain, but sometimes it's necessary for us to improve. And as we can have another analogy here, like a mineral, a raw mineral, under the action of the fire and the water, it's transformed in a pure metal. So it is. So it is our soul. In the great law of reincarnation explains problems that seems insoluble, social differences, attitudes, intelligence. Leon Denis says that we were primitive beings once, and we are gradually walking to rise to the heights of genius. We are gradually walking to rise to be a pure spirit, as Jesus. We are all God, as said Jesus once for us. We are all God. You are able to do what I do and better. Believe in that. We all have in ourselves, in inner selves, a Christ that is laying down there, waiting for us to move in its direction, to develop it, to practice the virtues that is laying down there, just waiting for us to take the action. But this, the reincarnation, the past lives, sometimes, and many times, brings us a question: why do we forget? Why do I need to forget what I was? I don't remember what I did. Why am I suffering in this life if I don't understand? If I know what did happen in the past, maybe I could deal better what is happening right now. Well, in the Spirit's book, question 392 and 393, we have the answers for those questions. And the superior spirits, they say that we are more ourselves when we forget. That would be, and they asked actually, in response of in this question, what would be the merit of remembering? But we remember, we bring in ourselves, in the inner voice, in the beginning, that we said, the knowledge that we accumulate from our past lives. And also, Leon Denis, he says that that if we observe ourselves, that everything that we have innate in us, the intellectual and the moral, are all inheritance of our lives, of our past lives. We were created pure, simple, and without knowing. And we have been accumulating knowledge and experience for millenniums. And now we are here with a better understanding about life, with a better understanding about God, about universal laws. And our duty is keep moving on, keep learning, keep improving ourselves. And then he says, this law of reincarnation shows in an evident way the supreme justice that governs all beings. Each time we forge and we break our own shackles, time and work These are the elements of our progress. And he says that each time we forge and we break our own shackles, because each time that we take an action, each time that we make a decision, if it's not based on the divine laws, we forge a negative consequence that will bring us unhappiness, that will bring in us so many bad feelings to our lives, bad challenges to our lives. But when we have the divine laws guiding us and guiding our actions, we will bring good consequences to our lives. It's just a law. It's not partial or impartial. It's just a law that depends on what we do, we receive. For everything that we plant, we will sow. And he talks in this chapter too about the poverty and the wealth, where he says that the wealth provides us with the means of study, the means to get culture, to develop the areas where we are, to develop ourselves. However, also it's a very dangerous proof in life, because can move us away from the most needy ones. We can become selfish, and we can become indifferent. On the other hand, the poverty brings us closer to the most humble ones, make us empathic to the pain of our neighbors, but also brings the danger, the revolt, and the despair. So through the knowledge of the real purpose of life, we can make better choices regardless of the social condition we are temporarily is. And the chapter 7, where he brings a supreme purpose. And he reminds us to collaborate, to be collaborators of the God's work, to participate in the law of progress without limits. We will be progressing forever, infinitely, elevating ourselves and our brothers in humanity. And in this chapter he says, collaborate with God, accomplish in everything and for everything the good and the justice. What could be greater, more worthy to immortal spirit? What could be greater than collaborate with God to feel that we belong to the universe, that we have a purpose, a real purpose in this life, that we are important for God and for ourselves. And he says, he brings us this lovely invitation where he says, man, my brother, have faith in your destiny, because it's great. You were born with innate faculties, infinite aspirations, and eternity is given to you to develop one and satisfy the others. Grow life by life, enlighten yourself by study, purify yourself by pain, acquire ever greater knowledge, ever nobler qualities. This is what is in your future. And this is our destiny. This is where we are going to. This is our supreme purpose. We are immortal spirits. We are immortal beings. All things will pass away, but we will remain. We will live for eternity. And he reminds us to give the right value to things of the earth necessary for our progress. But he gives a very good advice, not to bind our souls exclusively to them, but to search for the teachings that they bring us. This is the law of usage. Everything that we have, here. Everything is resource that God provides us to improve ourselves, to make ourselves better. And we need to provide a response to God after we leave this world. And he keeps going on in this book. This book has 2 more chapters that we are not going to bring here today. He'll be talking about experimental proofs, that he'll be talking about mediumistic phenomena, and he'll bring us the summary about the Spiritism principles. And maybe in the future we can bring this topic and we can have some reflections upon it. But to summarize this talk today, I would like to bring his advice, or maybe a lovely and consoling invitation that the Spiritism doctrine provides to all of us that decides to study a little bit more the Spiritism, trying to guide our lives according with the principles of the Spiritism. And it's very it's very similar to the invitation that Jesus provided to us in Matthew chapter 11 verse 28 to 30, where he says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest." The invitation that Leon Denis brings to us regarding the Spiritism is very similar. It says, "Come to me, I will warm you, I will comfort you, I will make your lives sweeter, your courage and patience easier, your trails more bearable. I will clarify with a powerful reason their obscure and tortuous paths. To those who suffer, I will give hope. To those who seek, I will give light. To those who doubt and despair, I'll give certainty and faith." We invite all of you to accept this invitation, to read, to study more the gospel, to study all these books that Allan Kardec provided to us. Here we will find all this hope, this light, this strength that we all have in our journey. If we haven't had any challenge moment in our lives, certainty we will have in the future, because this is a planet of expiation trials, and we need this strength, we need this light to help us, to guide us in our journey as immortal spirits. Hopefully, we are able to bring the light that we were seeking for, that you're looking for, hopefully we're able to bring a little bit more consoling to your hearts that are covered with pain now. It might be or not. And we expect that you can really go through, find the answers that you need, and come to the Spiritism and come to Jesus to have your wounds cured, because He is the doctor of the souls. Trust in Him. Search for Him. He is there, waiting for us every time. So, do you have any questions or comments?
Just good morning from Anna and from Malcolm.
Oh, nice. Good to see you guys here with us. God bless you all. So let's then finish. Okay. So Jesus, we are here once again to thank you for this blessing opportunity to be here to share what we have in our hearts with our brothers and sisters. Thank you for inspiring us, for bringing us your words, eternal words, that will guide, that will enlighten, that will bring us the peace and the consoling that we need. Thank you, all spirituality friends, all the friends that are here with us today, for helping us to support our wish to convey the message of Jesus. May Jesus enlighten and embrace all your hearts, each of you that are with us today, and all the ones that were not able to join us today. In these challenging moments that we are all facing nowadays, may the light of Jesus be there in the sky, shining brightly, and help us to walk firmly, confident, and happy to follow His sign, His guidance towards God. Thank you very much. God bless you all. So be it.